You're listening to All in the Industry, an independent podcast dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry, hosted and produced by me, Shari Bayer. Since initially launching in 2014, we have broadcast more than 400 episodes, and now we're excited to be on our new platform. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com. Support for this episode comes from the Institute of Culinary Education, ICE. To learn more, visit ice.edu today. That's ice.edu. Well, hello. Welcome to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer, and today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, and this is our 406th episode of this series, which is dedicated to behind-the-scenes talent in the hospitality industry. Today, my guest is a wonderful hospitality and nightlife journalist who is based in Los Angeles, and he is also the founder of Industry Only and co-hosts a podcast, and I will introduce him fully in a moment. But first, as I do in every show, I will start out with my PR tip, and then later we will have my speed round game, industry news discussion, solo dining experience, and the final question. As the founder of Bayer Public Relations, I'm going to tip the show off with my PR tip of the week. So today's tip is to believe in your community. Understand the value of your neighborhood and local connections, and do not take them for granted. Truly appreciate your relationships and find ways to give back and support one another. Sometimes, unfortunately, it takes a tragedy for us to slow down and pause and express our gratitude for our collective homes and neighbors. So let's remember to do so even when the times are good, as community is simply irreplaceable. That's my tip today. Okay, I'm very excited to have my guest joining me. It is Andy Wang. He is a Los Angeles-based journalist who focuses on restaurants, bars, dining, and nightlife. Andy has written for many top publications, including The Observer, Food and Wine, Robb Report, and Los Angeles Magazine. His work has also appeared in the New York Times, New York Magazine, Conde Nast Traveler, Ocean Drive, and many more. Andy was previously the real estate and travel editor at the New York Post and a former .com entrepreneur. In addition to being a contributing writer, he is the founder of Industry Only and co-host of Industry Only at the Cheese Store podcast. Without further ado, hi, Andy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shari. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to chat from LA. I know there's a lot going on there that we will get to. I want to hear all about, situation there now, as listeners, I'm sure know, with the fires that occurred from earlier this month. But before we get into that, I always like to start with my guests and find out about their background and how they got into this industry. So you want to take us back?
Sure. I mean, I guess if we're talking about the food writing part of it, the journalism part of it started for me, more than 2 decades ago, where wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I just happened to be born at the right time where the first .com boom, like .com 1.0 was happening. So I was in journalism school. Microsoft came to recruit people for this was even like pre-website. This was like at first like something you had to download, like on the rival thing they had to AOL called MSN. And they were looking, I guess for journalists. They had hired a lot of high profile journalists. They needed, journalism savvy students who were, who understood technology and maybe new ways to cover things. But I remember one of the first things that I did, and this was like at the beginning of the internet, is that I would just find interesting links on the quote unquote World Wide Web and just put it in a database with a description of what the website was. It sounds so ridiculous now. Then I went to Seattle, helped them launch msnbc.com. So it was actually a website at that point. Led to me writing about tech overall for the New York Times. Like I actually wrote the first stories ever about blogs and the first New York Times story ever about Google.
Wow.
So at that point, I was in the media, right? Worked at men's magazines like Bob Gucci Jr.'s Gear. Went to work at the New York Post, covering real estate. I launched a real estate section for them. Wrote for lots of magazines. Real estate turned into travel because obviously, like developers have buildings and they own hotels and all that. Make a long story short, I became the travel editor of the New York Post. And during the era when I was doing the travel stories, I would say 2008 and later, food was really like the driving force of culture in many cities around the world. So I just started writing a lot about restaurants.
So where were you living? You were born in Los Angeles?
No, I was born in Texas. I spent, a good part of my career, the first half of my career in New York.
Oh,
Moved to LA at this point, like almost 12 years ago.
got it. And what was it about writing about restaurants that I guess drew you in or that it became your focus? I mean, I listed off a few of the publications you've written for, and you named some of the stories as well. But you've done so much incredible work over the years. You really have captured the restaurant industry on so many different angles. So, what was it that drew you into that and nightlife as well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just because I was traveling all over and restaurants are the most exciting things. Restaurants, bars, nightclubs, they're the most exciting things that people went to in cities. Yes, you would go to cities for sports and you'd go to cities, because, they had great monuments, and great cultural centers and all that. But every time people travel, the first thing that they ask everybody else for is like, where are the 4 or 5 places I should go eat, right? And back then, travel writing as a genre was like well funded. There were full page ads. You could send people anywhere, go eat some of the most interesting things. And it was just exciting and fun because you just really do learn about a culture in the best way through the food, right? Like I remember like one time I was in Barcelona and the hotel concierge had no idea who we were, but every single day we would ask him for, help getting a car to go where we're going. We go to Calpap. He's like, oh, these people know about food. We go to Paco Morago. He's like, okay, these guys have the same list. We go to tickets, which at that point, like Alberto Adria was like there every single day. He's like, wait, how did you get this reservation? And we don't really say anything. And honestly, I think we got the reservation just because I was lucky on the internet. I didn't email anybody. Like I didn't know Ferran or anybody at the time. And then on the fifth day, we had gone through a list, and I go, hey, where should we go have dinner? And he smiles and he goes, oh, you've been here, here, and here, here. Let me send you someplace else that like probably isn't on a list like this. He sends up to this place called La Paradetta. It's essentially a fish market where you just point at things and then they start cooking it. Locals are sitting there like, drinking beer and eating all sorts of just like cooked or lightly cooked shellfish. It was this great experience. And I had a moment where it's like he clocked exactly the thing that I wanted to find after doing all the other things. And I think that that's, kind of the thing. Like I live in Los Angeles and, we have obviously 2 Michelin star restaurants and we do have serious fine dining, despite what most people think. But obviously a lot of the best food, arguably the best food, is, like from taco trucks, it's in Koreatown, it's in the San Gabriel Valley, it's eating Armenian food like in Glendale, and you really do get to see a city that way. And I mean, like literally, because you're going all over a city to places you would not normally go because you heard about a restaurant and then you discover a new community. So that's always been what it's about for me.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's so true. And I was smiling when you said tickets too, because I went there a while ago and had an extraordinary experience. And I just made a reservation, but no one sent
Yeah.
me anywhere after. But yeah, so what led you to move to Los Angeles in what you said about 12 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people in New York, obviously, after doing New York for a while, just want a life change. And I had a lot of, friends who had just moved to LA and were already extremely successful, extremely competent, had crushed New York. I mean, our friend Carol Chin was one of them, right? But then they just
Right.
moved because they wanted a life change. And because of the way that LA is, the cliches are true. You do get more time back, right? Because things end earlier. You are healthier in ways, even though you're walking a lot less because nobody walks anywhere in LA, just because you have more time for yourself. But at the same time, if you're a really, really strong, sort of strong-willed, hardworking person, you're going to end up doing so much more in LA. Like there's people I know who like came to LA and they realized, oh, this is a good mental break from everything, but then they ended up starting 3 or 4 businesses just because they felt like they had the time and the bandwidth to do it. In New York, that probably wouldn't have been possible. Would have been more expensive, certainly, to try to do it in New York.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people that thinks about, should I move to LA? Like, follow the lead. I feel like I know a good dozen people that left New York in the past dozen years and moved there and
Yeah,
have
no, a
done
lot
very
of
well.
people have done it, and it's been great, but this is also a weird time to talk
Yeah,
about this because I
true.
know 2 people that were good friends in Brooklyn that are both in the food industry moved to LA to start a new life. Their homes burned down in different neighborhoods. So it's like there's no lessons to any of this stuff. But like for years and years, you know, I understood why there was this migration, maybe not a mass migration, but like this, notable migration of people moving from New York to LA and other places nearby.
Yeah, yeah, understood. So let's talk a little about, I want to get to industry only, but I also want to talk a little about the Observer and the nightlife dining power list that you put together. Did you work on that just in 2023 or did you do that for multiple years?
The Observer had this list. It predated me. I mean, a lot of people think I created it. I did not create it. The Observer created it. But because of the pandemic and all that, there was obviously like a lull. There were years where it didn't make sense for them to do it. So it went on hiatus. I don't remember what exactly the hiatus was. I was asked to resurrect it, and I did recreate it, in a way to sort of like match what I think the mission of the Observer is, which honestly, is about covering New York and the markets that matter to New Yorkers, and obviously about the intersection of money and power and real estate and all of that. Like, there's no shame in saying that. That's what that publication obviously covers. Uh, and it skews higher end, like a lot of other places that I've written for. But yeah, I worked on it last year. This year, I was part of a team that, they got suggestions from, but I was not involved. Like, I did not write any of the blurbs at all, did not write the intro or anything like that. I was just part of the people they emailed to just be like, hey, what do you think? Or would you suggest? And then they got a little sneaky and surprised me, put me on the list, which was very nice after some other people on the list had told them that should maybe happen. So the whole thing was like a big surprise, and it makes me feel a little fucking weird. I mean, I'm happy for the recognition and all that, but like, yeah, it was a wild year, me basically resurrecting it, and then this happening a year later. So, but it is what it is. I'm not complaining. It's, hashtag blessed or whatever. It's more like it.
Well, I mean, I should have said this already. We're like 12, 13 minutes into the show now, and I'm a big fan of yours and your work and everything you do, and you as a person. And so when I saw your
Aw,
name on the list, I was thrilled to see it. And and the list you put together, from the previous year. I mean, I would say you know your stuff, and I think it was a great list, and that you're on it. I think you deserve it, and so congratulations.
thank you.
You're cute. You're like, thank you. So let's talk about industry only, because that is the
Sure.
reason why you're on the list, I believe, or one of the reasons cited.
Sure.
So for people who don't know, besides the fact that you have a word in there that's the same, we share the word industry because I'm
Mhm.
all in the industry and you're industry only. So what is industry only?
I mean, it started honestly just as after hours, off the clock parties for for chefs, bartenders, restaurant owners, where they could speak freely. I mean, this was born out of fundraisers we did during the pandemic, where people could speak freely, where they could talk their shit, but they could also just form the relationships that allow them to find collaborations, but also help when they need construction, marketing, PR, development help, funding, right? And the network that we've created has led to, multiple people opening new things together, people who come to the parties funding other people who come to the parties hiring people at these parties. So it's just been a very natural thing. And I think because of the circumstances that it started under, and this is not really me talking shit about the other version of this, because obviously we know for years and years that there have been things like 212 House from Scott Feldman and other private parties and even, clubby things that are just for the industry and all that. Uh, because we started, essentially in a time of crisis, and now, especially because we're in another time of crisis, and a lot of our chefs are very, very much on the front lines of relief efforts right now, which we can talk about later. Industry only can and never will be gatekeeping. I understand why the other things have to be. And that was the thing that I appreciated when I got put in the list, where Avish from Pija Palace pointed out that the point of this is not that we gatekeep, it's that we just connect people who need to be connected. And look, in some cases, it makes no sense to connect the 3 Michelin star restaurant to the kid who has a pop up. But in a lot of instances, it does, because it turns out that one of them looks up to the other one, and the other one needs people like the other one to sort of feel vital and new and to come up with new things that they want to do. So,
True. And I've been fortunate now to have gone to a couple of your events in
oh yeah, in Vegas, right?
Vegas. Yeah. So I got a taste of it and it was really fun. You showcase great food, great people, bringing the community together. So they're usually or always late night, or that just happened to be the circumstance of Vegas.
I mean, during World's 50 Best in Vegas, they were late night just because it's Vegas and there are other things going on. Typically, the parties that we throw in LA, they're on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. The nights that more chefs have off. And they start at a reasonable time, 6 or 7 o'clock, and they end up going really late night because it's still chefs. And some chefs have to work those days, and then they'll show up with their whole staffs at 10 or 11, and the party starts over again, basically.
Yeah. Well, I got a taste of it.
I mean, they're wilder in LA. Obviously, it's like all that stuff in LA is on hold for a while. We actually had a great one in February planned. It's not appropriate. It makes no sense to do it in LA right now. We're obviously redirecting the resources. It's not an original idea. I would love to see this idea happen in other cities, every city, honestly, where there's a vibrant hospitality industry, or just every city, like, no, honestly, every restaurant city in the world. We were getting it sponsored. I mean, we did get it sponsored, and what's going to be in February, holiday party for people who don't get to go to holiday parties, right? Meaning people who work at restaurants, who are caterers, who work at nightclubs. We had all these sponsored elaborate gifts. We were going to give people envelopes, and inside it might be $1,000 gift card donated by somebody, to eat anywhere they wanted. We had hotel stays, we had spa passes, and then we also had some fun gag gifts because we wanted there to be an element of trading and gambling. But I think that like something like that sort of sums up like what we've done, where we get money from sponsors, from partners, and we just do fun things for ourselves because we're all just grinding the rest of the time, as you know. I mean, last year we did a winter formal, Lunar New Year, almost exactly a year ago, Lunar New Year winter formal at Chifa. And we gave red envelopes to people that were provided by inKind, which is a partner of Industry Only and has funded more than 3,000 restaurants. So people could go eat for free. Open Table paid for a really fun photo booth that wasn't really a photo booth. It was like live photographers with different setups. So, taking pictures of people under cool backdrops. We had sponsors, pay for all this food, a great DJ and all that. And so it's just like giving chefs a proper night out with each other. And, I'm trying not to sort of like return to all the darkness, because I know that like not everybody even realizes what's going on in LA, but it's just wild because a year ago we were doing that. 2 weeks ago we were planning this, holiday party instead of doing the Lunar New Year party. And then one of the family homes for the Chifa family like burned down a week and a half ago. So it's sort of like the community is going to get together and rally, but it's going to be for different reasons for a while, as you can imagine.
Yeah, my heart goes out to what's happening in LA and everything you and the community is going through. We'll keep talking about it through this show.
No, but I prefer
And
talking about it like this because it's like, look, we're all doing a lot, and all the restaurants that are involved, they are not doing this. I mean, like, everybody's emptying their pockets. They're not doing this for clout. They don't need attention. There's not a specific thing I want to talk about. It's just that it informs everything I think about right now. So talking about like this is probably the best, most healthy way,
yeah,
where it just comes up. So
well, good. I wanted to connect with you, and I'm glad that's a good way to talk about it with
yeah.
you as well. Talk a little about your podcast, Industry Only at the Cheese Store. And as someone who I dine out a lot, I've been a lot of places. I've been to LA several times. I feel I know my way around. I have not been to the cheese store. So I feel like I got to get there. Tell me about it.
I mean, the cheese store is a legendary place. I mean, my friend Dom, who I do the podcast with, is a longtime employee who purchased the cheese store and relocated it about a year and change ago.
Where is
Uh,
it?
it's on Santa Monica in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And it is just for years and years, this has been where Michael C. Marusti, Nancy Silverton, Walter Mansky, but also all these other chefs that like you may not have heard of, but like run vital restaurants because they're sort of just not the people who even need a public persona. But it's like the cheese store, or even if you look at the newer restaurants, right? Like Stella West Hollywood, opened by Robb Gentile, a really big deal chef from Toronto, buys from the cheese store. Maria just opened in Beverly Hills and buys from the cheese store. So it's always an exaggeration to say that somebody sells to everyone, but I mean, even you who doesn't live in LA, like you've eaten product from the cheese store multiple times just based on
Well,
what I've told you.
yeah, I've been to the restaurants you've named. I
Yeah.
think I've been to all of them. So yeah, I've had their product, which is good. And yeah, and I think it's cool you're doing your podcast actually in the space. I mean, I've seen
Yeah,
your setup. I
in
think
the
it's really
basement.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah, in the basement, in the tasting room. And honestly, the podcast is just like an extension of the cheese store and industry only because there's always people that are friends of Dom um uh that come and hang out downstairs, but it turns out that Dom's friends are like Chris Bianco and Wolfgang Puck, right? And I mean they're my friends too, but the point is it's like, so it's a combination of him bringing some of his friends, me bringing in some of my people that we are very tight with through industry only, like Leeway from The Joint, the dry aged fish guy, essentially started industry only with me. He's been on the podcast. Heather Wong, this great pastry chef who with Leeway helped us launch a food festival at Wynn Las Vegas, the casino last year during World's 50 Best, has been on the podcast. And I mean, so I like the support, right, that we've gotten because we launched the podcast and Wynn Las Vegas was our first sponsor. Big Noise Beer, which sponsors our parties, was, the second sponsor. We did a party at the cheese store for Dom's 1 year anniversary, and it got sponsored by Pellegrino. So, that's part of what industry only is. We just like going to these brands and sponsors and doing things that like allow us to have more fun, and in some cases like more resources, more money, more chances to travel, and so that part of it's been great so far.
Yeah, I love that. Who do you have coming up? You're still doing shows right now? Or you
We just finished the second season, which had Jerry Greenberg from Sugarfish. Wolfgang and Byron Puck turned into 2 episodes. We had Bricia Lopez from Gelagetza. We had lots of other people, and we'll probably do a third season. But everything in LA is obviously like a little bit, uncertain and on hold right now. So we'll do a third season if and when it feels right.
right? Well, cool thing with having your own show is you have control of that
Yeah,
and you have the
yeah,
connections,
exactly.
I'm sure. With
Look, and for better, for worse, but also for better, there's going to be a lot of new things to talk about whenever we do it.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we take a break, can you give a little advice for anyone listening who wants to have a career like yours? I don't know if anyone could possibly have a career like yours, but or just to be a hospitality nightlife writer or someone that's covering the industry. I mean, you've been in it a long time. You've seen so much change, but as of today, what advice would you give to someone?
I mean, obviously, the writing part and the finding outlets part, like that's hard. I don't have a great answer for it. I'd be lying if I told you I had an answer for it because everybody knows that the media is shrinking, not increasing. I would say that like you should pretty much whenever you're talking to somebody, whether it's a source or somebody a colleague, boss, somebody who works for you, you should really think about you know just attempting, even though I know nobody has the brain space to do this, attempting to have a real relationship with each of these people for no real agenda, but also for the biggest agenda at the same time, which is just that at any point in your life, right? You just need a large network of people when you're reaching out to people for work, for information, for help in situations like what's going on with LA. And I think that, like, following up with people after you've spoken to them once, just staying in touch with them, which I know is hard, but it's a little easier now than it was before because you can just, it seems a little easier and lighter to text somebody than email them. And it seems even easier and lighter to DM somebody versus text them, right? So there are ways to sort of just like stay in people's orbits that don't even require that much effort. And then when you're sort of reaching out to them later to pitch them, to get an interview, to ask them for 500 relief meals like we just did, they'll be like, it's not that this person just fucking came out of the blue. We've been in touch. We've just been in touch in the way that people are in touch now, right?
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's true. It's true. Staying connected. So awesome. Okay, let's take a little break and then we'll come back. We'll play my speed round. We'll talk industry news and I have my solo dining experience and the final question. So this is All in the Industry, and we will be right back. For all you aspiring chefs, bakers, and food entrepreneurs out there, have you considered taking your passion to the next level? Maybe you dream of opening your own restaurant, becoming a pastry chef extraordinaire, or even a sommelier. Whatever your culinary aspiration, the Institute of Culinary Education, ICE, can help you turn it into reality. At its campuses in New York City and Los Angeles, ICE offers fast-track programs in a variety of areas, from culinary arts to pastry and baking, to restaurant management, hospitality management, and even sommelier training. And you can graduate in as little as 8 months. Did you know that some of the top name chefs and industry professionals that you've met right here on All in the Industry are ICE graduates? That's right. Stars like Gail Simmons, Andrew Ridgie, and Missy Robbins all hone their craft at ICE. Ready to pursue your dreams and find your culinary voice? Visit ice.edu today. That's ice.edu. Welcome back to All in the Industry. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. My guest today is Andy Wang. He's a Los Angeles-based journalist who focuses on restaurants, bars, dining, and nightlife. He's also the co-host of Industry Only at the Cheese Store podcast, and he's the founder of Industry Only, fabulous events that take place in Los Angeles, Vegas, and elsewhere. We'll see them around the world, I'm sure. He's going global.
Yeah.
any
That's the
day.
plan.
Yeah. I have no doubt. Okay, so Andy, it's time for my speed round game. What this is I'm going to name a couple things and you get to pick your preference, such as chocolate or vanilla. You ready?
Let's go.
Okay. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant?
Restaurant.
Indoor dining or al fresco dining?
Indoor dining. Again, a lot of these questions are weird. Nobody really wants to go outside in LA right now, but like indoor dining usually anyway.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, but it's just good to be close to kitchens, especially restaurants that have open kitchens and feel the energy inside. So that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the energy of a restaurant that you often don't get if you're sitting al fresco, even though al fresco can
Yeah,
be really nice when
it's great.
you
It's
know,
just a different energy, So
yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, how about wine, beer, cocktail, spiritless drink, or champagne?
wow. I mean, I would say cocktails, just because cocktails have been lending themselves to so much creativity.
Good point. How about tasting menu or a la carte?
A la carte. Honestly, like I can't deal with 3 or 4 hour meals all the time.
How about small plates or large plates?
I like large plates.
He likes large plates, he said. Communal table or chef's counter?
Communal tables. I love family style dining.
Nice. Tipping or all inclusive charge?
I mean, I wish there was a better way, but I actually like tipping right now because it just gives you the flexibility to sort of like do more when you want to, versus a lot of things now where it's built in and they don't even allow tipping. and I understand that that's great. But like right now, tipping is okay, I think.
Okay. A few more. Courage Bagels or Apollo Bagels?
I mean, I live in LA. Courage Bagels.
Have you been to Apollo?
I have.
Sure you
No,
have.
but Courage Bagels is on its own level.
I don't know who I'd choose in this one, but I found, I think when I went to Apollo and Courage, I got a similar type of a bagel. So I thought they were comparable, but
Yeah,
both
fair.
delicious. Okay. Being a guest on a podcast or being the host?
Being a guest, less
Ah,
pressure,
nice.
strangely.
Good. I take the pressure off. Okay. Last two are cheese plate or dessert.
Sorry, Dom at the cheese store. I'm going to pick dessert.
Ah, we won't tell him.
Yeah.
Last one is New York City or Los Angeles. And just for fun, I'll throw in there Vegas.
Man, I love them all. I mean, I still pick Los Angeles. It's my home.
All right. Love it. Love LA. Okay. And that's a good segue into our industry news. So, as we have alluded to already on the show, the big news in Los Angeles, the tragic news, which started on January 7th, the Los Angeles wildfires, which occurred through the Palisades and Eaton neighborhoods, and a lot of devastation is probably an understatement. I picked out a couple articles, and I know there's so many we could talk about, but in Eater LA, there was an article entitled "Customers Are Not Coming In. LA restaurants reach a breaking point due to the 2025 wildfires." Los Angeles restaurant operators and chefs share the dramatic collapse in business due to the wildfires and evacuations. And this was by the Eater staff, and it came out on January 17th. So I read through this. So I think they had 16 testimonials from restaurateurs of how the fires have affected their business and people aren't dining out. And you want to speak to this, speak to happening there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that I'm going to add to this conversation, and I mean, I guess I'll add more because it's something that I talk to my friends about all the time, but I haven't said it that publicly because a lot of us have been sort of busy just like dealing with immediate needs in the aftermath of the fires, which aren't even over yet, obviously. It's just that uh, if you want your city to remain the vibrant, healthy city that it is, and I understand that in some ways it cannot be the exact same city given what has happened. Uh, there is no shame and there is almost an obligation in a way I feel if you have the means to go out and support small businesses because they are all struggling right now. So yeah, go spend more, buy more, tip more, all of it right now.
Yeah, I saw a post online, someone talking about what restaurants you should go to, and it was basically just go to any restaurant.
Correct. Go to
Go,
go to any restaurant. I mean, like, let me put it like this, right? You know, I'm talking day to day with a lot of the small restaurants, literally like owned by two people, right? With maybe 11 employees that they're trying to keep, that are doing relief work. But I'm also talking on a regular basis to the big, huge restaurants. I'm going to tell you that in a lot of ways, you're talking about the same people and the same issues because obviously the big restaurants employ a lot of people, and I've been thinking about Murray a lot because it really just shows the dichotomy of what's going on. I mean, obviously, like you're from New York, you know what Murray is, you know what it, like what it has been, you know that it's something that's now going to expand and all that, and it's a very luxury, high end restaurant. Like people in LA are not used to going to a regular Italian restaurant, even an expensive one, and just like, getting bread service or seeing the fact that there's a martini for $34, a premium martini for $40. And if you buy six bonbons to take home, which are very good, they're $29, right? So on one level, Murray seems extravagant, right? Maria and its chef PJ, who I'm sure you know, have
yeah.
hired an LA team that is so deep that has two CDCs, one who came from the Tasting Kitchen, and one who worked at Rosa Blue and Bestia. As you know, with chefs, they bring people that they've worked with before. So there are a lot of great cooks who've come up, cooking at some of the most important restaurants in LA that like Murray's their livelihood. So you want that restaurant to succeed. And I tell you this before I even tell you that, like, Travis, one of the CDCs, like, his house fucking burned down last week. So, and he still opened this restaurant. They've been very supportive of him, obviously. And so the point is, it's like, yes, go support every restaurant, right? If the restaurant that you can sort of afford or want to support is the one that's selling $8 Galbi bowls, that's great. But if you have the means to go spend $1,000 balling out and you're distributing that money to lots of people who need it, including your server, I mean, please go do that too.
Yeah, 100%. The other article that I had picked out was on Khushbu Shah, her
Substack.
her Substack. Tap is Fine is the title of her Substack. And the article that she wrote recently was entitled Restaurants Were the First to Step Up During the LA Wildfires, but Who is Taking Care of Them? This is your reminder to still eat out and support local restaurants during times of crisis. And this came out on the 13th. And she's written more articles since then, I've seen. I mean, it's ongoing, and this just addresses what we just spoke to. But I guess for me, I feel here in New York, I know a lot of people in LA. I feel as far as community industry, my network, very large base in Los Angeles, and I've been seeing the news, and it's heartbreaking. And I just want to talk to you, like, what else? What can I be doing more? What could we be doing? How can we be supporting you and everyone in the industry? From, I've seen the GoFundMe's. I saw on your Instagram too, you had inKind, like buying gift certificates and all that, like
Yeah, I
donations.
mean, yeah, you can do the GoFundMe's. You can buy in-kind gift cards, which you're giving the restaurants. If you, whatever, PayPal or Zelle, industryonlyla@gmail.com, we, like a lot of other people, are just sending that money directly to restaurants, right? There's going to be some crazy fucking story that somebody else writes, because I may not have time for all, but I imagine there's going to be this headline that somebody writes where it's just like, we all relief organizations now, right? Because I feel like there are hundreds of people that are really doing this right now, essentially by themselves, in addition to helping World Central Kitchen and everything else. So, I mean, things that you could do now, beyond what I just said, is go online to your favorite LA restaurant and see if you can buy a gift card online, and then just like use it a year later, or just buy it without any intention of using it, right? Or buy it and give it to somebody who could actually use that meal right now. So certainly, that helps. But then I would say that, like, think about the contacts and the resources that you have now, because right now in LA, there's been a surplus of certain types of donations. But the thing that people are going to need in the near future, like all these displaced families, they're going to need their home set up, right? So they're going to need housing. They're going to need the things that go into houses, which are, whatever, kitchen appliances, Starlinks, gift cards to send them groceries, right? And so a lot of us are already out there reaching out to be like, who's going to ask Instacart for this, right? Who's going to ask Resi and Open Table for this or whatever? And the thing that I will say is that, Kushbu was basically saying in her article that, where are the groups that benefit from the restaurants? What are they doing? And I will say that, like, not all of them, but, Open Table and Resi are trying to do their part. I know they've been reaching out to restaurants, even restaurants that are in some cases not on their network, to see how they can help. I mean, the reality is, though, this hole is too big for any one organization, for any one billionaire or whatever to cover. It just is. There are restaurant groups that are funded by people who have so much free cash flow that you think they can afford it. But I promise you, given the economics of LA right now, if you're just giving away 1,000 meals a day, this is something that is unsustainable long term for anybody. And you can imagine all the reasons why, right?
Yeah.
So, I would say if there are ways that you can actually inject money in the LA economy, it's great. But it's like, be ready to help us sort of like have a chance in this longer game, because we're going to need a lot of stuff later too.
Yeah, true. It's a long game. And yeah, from what I've seen online and the community and network, I feel everyone is trying to help and do their part and be supportive. And it's just, this is, when you think back to the pandemic and what we went through,
Yeah,
uncharted
and,
territory.
and LA had the writer's strike too. So it's like every time somebody sort of recovers from something that causes an economic downturn, they get hit again. So
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see what's happening to the neighborhoods just by the photos. It's incredible though to see how the community and chefs have come together and cooking meals for people, and World Central Kitchen and Jose Andres and the whole team and what they do. I mean, it's like it's pretty amazing when you see how people can come together and really support each other. And I know LA will you'll get through this, but it is a long road ahead. So I'm glad you're safe and well in your neighborhood. I'm not sure exactly where you are, but
Yeah, no, I mean, we it was an inconvenience for us, but nothing more than that. So no, I'm fine, right? But I did tell a restaurateur today, who obviously is like, I can't believe we're getting hit with this again. He goes, but you know what? I understand that we're more fortunate than other people. And it's like this. I mean, like that's great. I understand that, but it's like these restaurant people need to understand that this is. It's not that they're lucky. It's just like there are different levels of unlucky, right? And that's what all of them are right now.
yeah, well, people, if you can support restaurants, if you're in the LA region, you can go out to eat and buy gift cards, do what you can.
And
Much.
honestly, like I've had friends, right, in other cities who just said, I just started reading GoFundMe's of people who lost their houses and just giving money to people I didn't know. I'm like, that's great. However, I think that like sort of the things that directly go to individuals who lost their homes and directly support small businesses, that to me feels like the most important work right now.
Yeah, well said. And yes, there's ways to connect online, which is a good thing about having
Yeah. No,
technology.
and like, look, I'm glad that we had the conversation about everything else. I'm glad you still decided to do this today. I mean, there's no way to not talk about it, but it's like, we're finding, like we're finding humor and levity every day because we have to, and a lot of that is also helping us find, find solutions because without getting into it too much, because some of the things that they're finding, like nicotine pouches, maybe they shouldn't be finding for people. But restaurant people are, the most resourceful, most gangster type people in situations like this. Where, to give one example, right? We got a request last week where some first responders who were camping out needed waterproof flip flops for shower safety, right? Few group texts. Paul James from Uncle Polly's got in touch with Luso Cloud, and then all of a sudden they're just like, "We're gonna deliver 300 pairs of designer slides that are probably retail value $80 each to this base camp because you asked me to do it, and also because they want to do it, and they feel a deep connection to the exact first responders because of something, some tie to the Luso Cloud owners like family. So it's like, but what I'm saying is that in the middle of trying to save their businesses and feeding, thousands of people meals that they aren't getting paid full price for, in some cases are getting donated. Restaurant people are just like, yeah, you got a problem? Let me find 10 minutes and see if I can solve it for you.
Yeah, the restaurant community is incredible and weird to say, but I feel like known for it, like the
Yeah,
reputation
no,
that
100%. I
giving
mean, we
people
saw
are.
you spend your life in the weeds, so you're a little better prepared for this than other people, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like it's an instinct or it's like a natural reaction to be like, what can I do to give back or feed people? Because like you get into it, I don't know, chefs want to feed people, take care of people. So,
Yeah.
mm. Okay, so we'll segue into my solo dining experience, which I decided to flash back to a restaurant I went to when I was in LA the last time, which was almost a year ago. It was in March. So here's my solo dining experience. It's at Saltie Girl. I assume you've been there before, maybe,
Yeah,
Andy?
of
Okay,
course.
of
Great
course.
seafood place.
Great seafood place. So, okay, here's the rundown. The location 8615 West Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, Los Angeles. The concept it's a seafood restaurant known for mindfully sourced, pristine, and sustainable seafood, including oysters, tinned seafood, lobster, and more. Also, their first location is in Boston. The founder and owner is Kathy Seidel. So why did I go? Well, I'm a seafood lover. I was in town for the Taste Awards, which I'd been honored at their Hall of Fame. I got this award there, which was really nice to receive for this podcast. And it was my last day. It was lovely weather. So I decided to go and see if I could catch a spot outside, which I did. So my experience, I didn't have a reservation. I don't think I had a reservation from what I remember. And I walked in, I got a table outside in their patio. It was like a later lunch, a weekday. They're a really nice server, guided me through the menu. You pick some oysters, you fill out the little sheet with the pencil. And then I ordered and I sat back and had a nice time. What did I get? Well, I picked 4 oysters. I did 2 East Coast, 2 West Coast. I also got the Saltie Girl lobster roll served warm, and I got fries with it, and I had an iced tea. So my take, oysters were terrific, chilled. I love oysters. I'm East Coast, West Coast. I do them all. Delicious. They had a vignette with them, and as well as a hot sauce as an option. And the lobster roll was terrific. I mean, it had ample fresh lobster, big pieces, and it was a perfectly buttered roll and crispy fries on the side. So it was a lovely, nice, delicious seafood lunch. The ambiance, so it's on a sunny corner in West Hollywood, was a sunny corner with a white awning. It had light blue outdoor tables and chairs, and the patio kind of wraps around the front. And then inside, it's like casually chic, I'd say. It's an oyster display, but has wood tables. And then I was looking back at my pictures. I did take a picture in the bathroom, and the bathroom stalls are all light pink. So it's got this like light pink and blue motif going on also with the patio. Say it's perfect for solo or dining with friends. Interesting tidbit. So in relation to the LA fires, I saw online that Saltie Girl Seidel Hospitality is donating 100% of their proceeds from every order of fish and chips to both Altadena Teen Girls and Teen Boys Fire Funds during this week of January 20th, 26th. Personal fun fact. So I thought I would kind of give a shout out to other restaurants in LA that I've been to on that trip and other trips. And you and I went to All Day Baby, I remember, which isn't open anymore, right?
Yeah, which is closed now, yeah.
Yeah, I was sad to see that. But other restaurants in LA that I've enjoyed over my trips, we've got Baru, Destroyer, Justa. I tend to always go to Destroyer and Justa when I'm in
Oh,
town.
Justa just got on inKind. So you buy a $100 inKind gift card, which is being sent directly to restaurants that are feeding people. You can go use it at Justa, and you get
Nice.
$100, so you lose nothing.
Oh, cool. At Jelena too? Or
Yeah, Angelina and Justa. We just
cool.
added them a few weeks ago.
Fabulous. I'll have to check that out. Who else? Republique, Antico Nuevo, AOC, Anajak Thai,
Yeah.
Sound Oyster and Naka and Soto. Lots of amazing restaurants. Funky, Mother Wolf, Whole Box. Okay.
Mother Wolf is on inKind too. That's what I'm saying. inKind's got a lot of these restaurants.
There you go. If I name enough, I knew I'd get another one. Okay. Check that out. Support restaurants in LA however you can, any restaurant, because all these places I've been to are fantastic. So the cost of my meal as Saltie Girl, it was $68. Lobster rolls can be pricey, market price. That's not including tax, or they had a 4% optional restaurant fee for the kitchen team at the time. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. They did. Would I go back? Yes, of course. And their website is saltiegirl.com and Instagram at saltiegirlLA. And Saltie is SALTIE girl. Saltie Girl. There you go. Have you had the lobster roll there too, Andy?
Yeah, I have had the lobster roll. Place is good. I was at their 1-year anniversary party, and then our friend Carol Chin is doing a special dinner showcasing Japanese fish there in a couple weeks too.
Oh, nice. I just saw she posted she went to dinner or lunch at Damien Enrico Avera's restaurant, which I'd been to as well and really enjoyed. Great spot by over by Bestie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, really good. And love Carol. Saw she was on your podcast too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Carol helped me launch a food festival that Industry Only just did during F1 week in Las Vegas, which was only a few months ago. I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but it's like, yeah, Carol, moved to LA before I did. And obviously we've continued to stay in touch. Our relationship's gotten deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I give her credit as the OG mover from
Yeah,
New York.
in a lot of ways, she got some of us to move for sure. She helped convince us.
Yeah. Yeah, she's wonderful. I always like to see both of you when I get out to LA. I try to,
Oh, I love that.
see you both. Never enough time, but yeah. So, okay. So, speaking of time, we're almost at the end of the show. So, it's time for the final question. So, I'm going to ask you to ask a question to, I have another question for him already because I rescheduled shows, but Gary is going to get two questions. So, my next or upcoming guest is Gary He. He's the author of his first book, which is McAtlas, a global guide to the Golden Arches. And Gary is a James Beard Award-winning photographer and New York and Brooklyn-based writer. And he's done storytelling, visual storytelling for lots of publications, including the New York Times, Bloomberg, Bon Appetit, Eater, and Saveur. So, Andy, can you please ask a question for Gary? Have you seen his McAtlas book? Is my question with my question.
Oh, your question to me?
Well, curious. Have you seen his book?
I have not seen his book yet, but I'm very familiar with his work.
Cool. So, can you ask him a question?
Yeah, no, I have a
Whatever you
question
like.
for him. So I remember, Gary, that you pretty famously bought the $800 Masa pandemic box, and you had some concerns about whether you're going to make $800 back selling photos. So how much money did you end up selling photos, or whatever else you ended up selling from buying that box?
Oh my God, I love that you remember that. And now I remember that too. And I'm going to find out.
Yeah,
He's awesome. He's very unique, in what he does. I think that goes to shows with
yeah,
his
no, 100%.
his approach to writing and the fact that he did this book. So awesome. I will find out. Okay. That's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I know you have a lot going on. I appreciate you. I wish you the best. I wish the whole LA community and restaurants and everyone the best. And we are here to support however we
All right,
can.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. My guest today has been Andy Wang. He's a Los Angeles based journalist, and he's the co host of Industry Only at the Cheese Store podcast and the founder of Industry Only. You can find him on social at Andy Wang NYLA, and also his other handles are at Industry Only LA and at Industry Only at the Cheese Store. So follow all of those. Follow me at Shari Bayer at Bayer PR and at All Industry. My YouTube channel and Facebook page are All in the Industry, and all of our shows are archived now on our new platform at allintheindustry.com, and you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please, if you have a moment, leave us a rating and review. It will help more people find our show. And you can check out my other websites, BayerPublicRelations.com and ShariBayer.com. And my book is ChefWise, Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World. And that's available wherever books are sold. Thanks to the Institute of Culinary Education, ICE, for their support of this episode. To learn more, you can visit ice.edu. And that's a wrap. Thanks to my engineer, Armin. Thanks again to Andy. I'm your host and producer, Shari Bayer. I will be back soon with a new show. I hope you tune in then. Stay safe and well. And thank you as always for being part of All in the Industry. Bye. All in the Industry is an independent podcast hosted and produced by Shari Bayer. Follow us on Instagram at All Industry and on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, All in the Industry. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts so you don't miss any new episodes. To learn more, visit allintheindustry.com.